This is a Ford Taurus and it has some kind of miss. So to start out, we're going to plug in the handheld code reader. Anything after 96 has this exact kind of connection. You just have to feel around underneath here till you find the port, and it's tapered on one end, so it's easy to know what direction. That's all there is to it. It's in. Okay, so let's start it up. You can hear the miss. Okay, so I have 5 codes. This one just says that the monitors aren't complete, the reading. This one says it's running too lean. 305, that says misfire detected on cylinder 5. Another one. So something's going on with cylinder 5, and by the way, I smell fuel as well, so maybe it's fuel injector related. I'm gonna start there, so let's take a look. Some cars, everything is very easy to access. Not this one. This 6-cylinder car, all the fuel injectors are underneath this plenums, but luckily it's just a few bolts, so I'm gonna unbolt it, tip it aside. A couple of these bolts are hard to reach, so after I loosen them, I'm going to take them out with two of these bolts are hard to reach, and so I'm using a magnet. That way I won't drop them down into drop the bolts down into no man's land. Okay, that's the last one. Okay, there's something else holding this on somewhere. Oh, the EGR valve. Okay, be back with a wrench. Just going to completely remove the EGR valve. It's too rigid to flop this bolt. Holding on to the bolt. A couple of gaskets. Just want to make sure they don't fall off. There they are. They're kind of stuck on. So let's see if we can lift this up now. Now what? Oh, one more bolt. Let's take the air box off as well. Let's make this easier. A couple of factors over here. I can smell fuel in here. So there's a hose back here. I'm just going to pull it off to make this more maneuverable. A couple of hoses, a couple of connectors. Okay. Anything else? Oh, the EGR valve connector. One more hose. Okay, now we have access. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up on the internet which one of these is cylinder 5. So that's my next step. I looked it up on the internet. Cylinder number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the one that's a problem. And after thinking about it a little more, I'm smelling gas, which maybe means the spark isn't firing. So I'm kind of changing course here. I don't see any fuel leak around the injector. What I'm going to do is just switch these 2 coils and see if that moves the mist from cylinder 5 to cylinder 4. When I take these are really easy to remove. Just take off the electrical connection unscrew one bolt and they come right out. And while I have them out, I'll probably take out these two spark plugs and take a look at those too. When I took out the coil from cylinder 4, you can see it's covered with oil, but cylinder 4 is not the one that's missing, so that's not our problem. Although it's pretty strong indication the valve cover gasket's leaking. So I'm going to put number 4 back into number 5. Number 5 was not leaking. It's pretty dry, just a slight bit of oil. But you know what? There's some rust around this. That's not a good sign, because if somebody washed this engine once and got water down in there, or water got in there some other way, that can create an alternative path for the spark. We'll see. So now I want to take out the spark plugs and see if there's any clue there. Pretty loose. Look at all that oil. But this is cylinder 4. The spark plug itself looks okay. Here's cylinder 5. There's definitely some oil down in there. So I'm suspecting that it could be that the spark is just going a different way other than through the spark plug. It's going through some of this oil. So let's clean everything. Before I put the spark plugs and the coils back in, I'm just going to clean some of this oil out of here. And before I'm finished with this, I'll also tighten the valve cover gasket. Tighten the valve cover to reseal the gasket. I'm going to get deep down in there and get the oil away from the spark plug area. Very dirty in there. Okay, so let's put these spark plugs back where they came out, and we'll just try switching the coils. They're already switched, in fact. Okay. I'm going to put the plenum back on because it seems like that was an unnecessary exercise. I think the smell of fuel that we were smelling was just the unburned fuel from some problem with the spark here. I don't see any big fuel leak. Okay, so with regard to the plenum, just reversing the steps from earlier. I'm tightening the plenum from the center out, and you want to be precise about it. It's a good idea to torque it, look up the spec and torque it, but I think that's overkill. A few things to reconnect here. Put the EGR valve back on. There are these two hoses in the back and the air cleaner, and then we'll fire it up and see if the mist moved from cylinder 5 to cylinder 4. Before I turn on the car, I'm going to tighten up the valve cover. It's already pretty tight. Probably needs a new gasket. Okay, so the leak isn't going to stop until the gasket's replaced. Maybe taking the plumbing off was a waste of time, but that's what it's like trying to find a miss. You just have to try different things until you find the miss. So these are switched 5 to 4, 4 to 5. Let's see what that does. I'm going to clear the codes and then run the car and see if our miss moved from here to here. Okay, I'm just going to erase the codes now. Am I sure? Yes. Continue. It's clearing the codes. Zero remaining. I better clear the engine as well. Okay, the codes are clear. I'm going to turn it on and see what happens. At first, when I turned the car on, it showed there were no codes. So I took it on a test drive and put it under a load, and sure enough, P304 cylinder 4 misfire. So let's try replacing that coil and see if our misfire goes away. So I have the replacement. Let's see how this works. Okay, let's see if it runs better. Huge improvement. The interesting thing about the coils is that the coil that was covered with oil worked just fine, whereas the coil that had just a little bit of rust on it was the one that was causing the miss. So a little bit of a valve cover leak down into the spark plug tubes is probably not a big deal, but a little bit of water and rust is a disaster.